Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at how to make one of your landscape photos into a pseudo planet or a tunnel. These can look really effective and they're relatively simple to do. The most important thing is to make sure you've got the right photo to start with. I prefer to use something that has some interest in the skyline, though you can use something with a fairly even horizon if you like. This one, for instance, was a panorama of just a paddock with a tree in it, which I thought was great. It's worth playing around with lots of photos to see what you like the best, but I prefer to have the one item of interest in the photo, such as this temple. What you're looking for is a photo which has fairly blank sides or something relatively even at the sides. I'm using this photo today. I've already done one of these using this photo taken in China, and as you can see it does have fairly even sides, so it's a good one to use. And you'll see why that's really important as we get further into the process. This particular photo here, it's not particularly good for this type of photo because the sides aren't even. They don't match up. Here we've got trees, here we've got a building, and they just wouldn't look right. Imagine that this side and this side are going to be taken into the middle to cause a seam. So you're going to have a seam right down the middle and it will be too hard to try and match them up. It just wouldn't work. So that type of photo isn't really what you want to use for this process. This one here, this I made out of two photos. I made it out of one made into a tunnel. So this was made into a tunnel and this one was made into a planet. And then I put them together and made this, which I was quite happy with. We're going to make a planet today. We might do a tunnel video another day, but today we're just going to make a planet. So we are using this photo here, and this is the finished result that I got the other day when I did a practice run with it, which there's the tunnel of that photo and there's the planet of that photo. So we will start with that. So open a photo that you've chosen in Adobe Photoshop and let's get started. So the first thing to do is try and make sure that the sides are fairly even. Because you'll have a seam down the side, you can see that this side here is a lot lighter than this side over here. So if we just take our dodge tool and we just lighten this side up a little bit, we'll get rid of a little bit of that blue there. We can take it right over if we like and get rid of a fair bit of that. It doesn't have to be perfect because you will be able to fix it up later on as you go along when you can see them together, but you don't want that seam to be really noticeable or too hard to change. So if you had a particularly red sky this side and a blue sky this side, it would just look completely wrong. So you do need to think about your skyline first. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. Now if this was a different aspect, this is actually a panorama. It's about a 23 photo panorama stitched together. But if this was a normal aspect photo, you'd have a lot more skyline in. I would crop the skyline out. You don't need it. It just creates blank space that you don't need. So crop it fairly nice and tight with the skyline. And this sort of aspect actually looks quite good, the panoramic aspect, but it can be done with a normal photo. So the first thing we do after we've done that, and I think that's fairly good. Okay, so then we get our ruler tool. There's the ruler. And we have a look at what we're going to straighten with this. Now, we could take the skyline or the horizon and it would probably look okay. But have a look for points of interest because see this wall here, this is the edge of the wall that people walk down this side and the same this side. The best thing to do is to get a point of interest that might marry up and that will make a good effect. So click on that level there and then bring it over to the same level there and let go. And then just up here click on straighten layer. Now you can see that's left a few blank pixels around the photo. So just take your rectangular marquee tool and the easiest thing to do is just crop those blank pixels out. You're not losing a huge amount on the side, so it doesn't really matter. Take that and then to image and crop, and there we have it. So I'm fairly happy with that at the moment. So the next thing to do is to go to image size. We're going to make this into a square to make this work. So make sure that this here is unclicked. If that's clicked and those brackets are around it, it means you can't change the aspect ratio, and we want to be able to. So we'll unclick those, and we have a look. This is around 30 centimeters to about 8. So we're going to go for something in the middle, and I'm probably going to go for about 18, and we'll even it up. It is going to stretch the pixels, but that's okay. It's going to look fine. So make sure that that's in a square, and then we end up with this, which is vastly different from the panorama that we started with. When we've got to this, the next process is to go to Filter, Other, and Offset. Now that's going to give us that seam down the middle that I spoke about. And as you can see here, because we took that level there, it gives us a nice round effect, as well as we get a nice clean V here. So that's a fairly good seam down the middle. This here, we'll shift it to the left or to the right, but we'll pretty much spot on in the middle there. So that's about right. And we'll just go OK. From here, today I'm just going to use the patch tool. Normally I would clone this to get rid of the seam down the middle, but for today we'll be lazy because we want to do it quickly. And we will just patch that. The patch tool's good. It does destroy pixels a little bit, but it does also allow for lighting and shade. So where you haven't got a lot of detail, it's really not too bad to use. If we go in a little bit tighter, we can still see there's a seam there. So we would play with that a little bit. But if we go into our clone tool, take it down a fraction, and I might bring this tree up a little bit more just to give it a little bit more uniformity and make it look a little bit more natural. So that's not too bad. Might take it a little bit from there and just add a bit more colour there. And here we might just go over a little bit down here and soften it a little bit. So that's not too bad. The seam down here is fairly good actually. I would possibly get rid of that person in the middle there, only because they've been squished a little bit, so it doesn't look as good as it perhaps could. So we'll just clone that person out. There we go. There we go. And so I'm actually quite happy with that as it is now. Take it back down, and we're pretty much ready to go. I know this sky's messy. It would normally be better than that, but I'm just showing you quickly so that we can see the process. But yes, if you had more time, you would clone that and make it look a whole lot better than it does at this moment in time. So now what we want to do, we've done the offset, which is the seam down the middle. We've fixed it all up. So now it's time to save this as a PDF. So we're going to save as a PSD. And we are going to change that to Planet Tutorial will do. Okay. And then we're going to save again, and this time we're going to save it just as a JPEG is fine to work with. Okay, now the reason we do that is if we want to make a tunnel later on, then we've got exactly the same photo to work with. But right now we're just going to work on this JPEG, and then, so we'll close it down for a moment. And we will open, there we go, there it is. So we're going to open the JPEG, not the PSD. Okay, and we're ready to go. Now this is the easy part. We go to Filter. First of all we go to Image Rotation, and because we're making a planet, we want to flip the canvas horizontal. Okay, looks a bit messy, but there we have it. We go to Filter, Distort, Polar Coordinates. With the polar coordinates, keep rectangular to polar checked, and if you just scroll out a little bit here, you'll see we have the desired effect. There we have it. Now, one thing I like to do, if you have a look closely here, you can't see it too well on this particular one because of the pale blue skies, but this is all stretched pixels around here. So If you wanted to, which is something that I sometimes do, I take my elliptical marquee tool, pop it in the corner, click and drag until you take the marching ants out to the edges and then let go. And then we want to put this on a new layer to be able to have a transparent background. So the way to take the selection and put it onto a new layer is to hit Control and J, and then if we just turn that one off, you can see you've got the transparency behind, which can come in handy later on if we're going to put them together. You don't have to do that, but you can. So then I would save that as a PNG, and a PNG of course preserves the transparency, which is what we want. Okay, and so that's it. It's as simple as that. We'll go into doing the tunnels on another day, and then we might have a play in putting them together. But just keep having a try. Try a few different photos, because seriously, there is so many effects that you can do with it. If you look here, this is one I've done, and that, and that. And I've done quite a few, because I just find it quite fascinating to go through your photos and see what you can and can't do with them. So have a play, see what you think, and we'll do a tunnel on another day. Have a great day. Bye.